I'm Chris West, here in the Department of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, the department that Marian Bradford, Dr. Bradford now, but then a graduate student, occupied in the laboratory of a professor named Bill Williams, a reproductive endocrinologist. And they had a need to measure how much of the stuff they were working with. Any cook in the kitchen needs to measure how much stuff they put together to make a cake or a casserole or something. And it was taking a quarter of a day to do it. And one day, I guess this student got a bright idea that he could find a quicker way to do it. And he put two and two together. It had been common at the time to use a dye that came out of the textile industry that makes things blue. And that dye binds certain fabrics that have protein in them, like silk or wool. And he thought, well, I could use that to bind the proteins out of the extracts that I work with. And so he did it. He mixed the dye with his protein solutions, and he was a very careful student and did concentration curves, a little bit more, and a little bit more, and he got a bigger signal, and did it very carefully and quantitatively, and thought the world should see it. And so he published a paper. And from what I understand, because I was a graduate student somewhere else at the time, and the professors are gone at this time, so we had to reach back and talk to other people and find out something about it. And it kind of revolutionized things. I was a graduate student in Pasadena, California, and I saw the paper come out, and the next week I tried it. And it was quick and easy. And it had certain other advantages too, like it didn't respond to interfering substances. So the importance of it wasn't like an earth-shaking conceptual breakthrough in understanding biology. It was on the tool side of things. Very important, because you got to have good tools to move forward. And obviously, the numbers of citations speak for themselves. 1/5 of a million citations in the biological literature. It's not stuff people read every day, but scientists do, of course. And and it continues to be cited. A company bought the license for it a couple years later. So most of people think of it as the Bio-Rad assay, after the name of the company. But those of us who were around at the time called it the Bradford assay. And it's good to honor the people who generated it. I want to emphasize that there was a culture at that time, there still is a culture, that helps young people make discoveries on their own and get the credit for it, as he did. But there was a background too. There were the laboratories that were set up by the professors and other graduate students and postdoctoral associates, even undergraduate students. I communicated by email with an undergraduate student who knew him at the time, and it was a role model for him. Now he's an associate dean down at Mercer University School of Medicine.
Do you think he had any idea what he was doing and the impact it would have?
No, not this big. It was a step forward. I'm sure that there was some satisfaction in being able to do this and turn it into a paper. That's always an excitement to accomplish that. But to see it taken on, there's another protein assay that's out there that was developed in 1951, before I was born, called the Lowry assay. And it's a more complex assay, very, very good assay too. And that was already ongoing, but this runs a parallel with it, and in some cases supplants it. And being easier, it really has. But yeah, I think, from what I've heard, I haven't spoken with Dr. Bradford, but I think he feels like he's made greater contributions after he left graduate school in other fields, which we could talk about, but isn't the main subject of this story. So it's a stepping stone for him, I would say, but an important one. It established him with confidence that, as graduate school is supposed to do, that he could do something, that he could do something significant. He did something significant, and then he did, in his mind, more significant things once he moved out into the world.
So those are good questions. I think that when someone works in a dissertation, there are usually two paths that one can follow. One is applied and one is discovering new methods. And so this clearly falls into the new method categorization. And if the method is good, and the method is reliable and accessible, and in this case Bradford's assay is accessible worldwide. It's such a trivial assay to do now in terms of what we do in the lab. It became a very important method that people continuously use in labs. I have assays that I run in my lab weekly using the Bradford assay. Did he know that this was going to become a big assay? I doubt it. A lot of really important discoveries, whether they're applied or technical, usually serendipitous. And so he probably didn't know at the time, but it takes brilliance to sort of identify the application of a particular discovery, and in that sense, he was brilliant. He was able to then figure out a way to adapt his observations into something that was easily accessible by scientists throughout the world.
Great. Can you kind of talk about his significance to the University of Georgia and a little bit about this award tonight?
Well, the significance for us, I mean, really the significance is worldwide, as we've already talked about, but here at home, I'll have to admit, when I came here to be a department head 4+ years ago, I didn't know that the Bradford assay that I was using originated here. And so it was great to take it to the students who are here now and to remind them that there's a history here. There's a culture, a heritage that they inherit, and they'll continue, and they'll make discoveries and continue this. I mean, society has invested in science at universities. They've helped underwrite the cost of graduate school, and it's great to see that pay off. And there's so many small things that add up to big things. There are many other things that were going on at the time. This is one that gets a spotlight on it, but it ends up being a nice example for everybody to see.
I think it's become such a standard method in laboratories that people sometimes forget where these methods come from. And in that sense, I think that UGA's affiliation with the Bradford assay has been a little underserved because people just sort of think of it as routine. We don't think about where the turn signal came from. We use it all the time. We don't think about seat belts, but someone had to discover seat belts. So he figured out something that worked really well for lots of different people in lots of different applications, and it was brilliant.
Is there anything you'd like to add that I haven't asked you about?
Well, you give me a chance to exposit on this in a little bit of a general way, so I think you give me a chance to cover the bases. I just want to emphasize that this is it's great to put a spotlight on a good idea, that even a young person, a graduate student in his 20s, made a splash. We all sometimes have to go through a lifetime to get something that gets a spotlight put on it like that. Yeah.